Coach, can you hear us? You're muted. You're muted. You're muted. Everybody has the same problem. Hey, everybody's
I have gotten better with technology, Christian, over the years.
Every single time we've had a guest, at least in this classroom, the person who we're talking to has their mic muted. You're not the first, and you won't be the last, Coach.
Thank you, Christian. I appreciate that. I knew you'd have to get a shot in because I didn't draft you in 1995. You took control of this meeting right away.
You did it. That's all right. And I told him that was I love the Steelers. Rocky Blyer, Lynn Swann. I used to try to catch passes like Lynn Swann, jump, even though I didn't need to jump. I would try to make those famous catches against the Cowboys, Coach. So Coach is great. They know all about you, okay? We've seen videos. We've read articles. We've done everything. So I want to give them the floor because I know we don't have you for a long period of time. I want to try and get as many in as possible. So they're just going to stand up, say their name, where they're from. They'll ask you a question. We'll just try and go as quickly as possible, Coach. You good with that?
Sounds good.
Awesome. All right, who's first?
Hello, Coach. My name is Zach. I'm from Bryant, Massachusetts. My question to you would be, whether a player, maybe staff member, just someone in the organization that was extremely talented or knowledgeable, but had a hard time fitting into the culture that you were trying to build, how did you adjust or what did you do with that player or maybe organization member?
Oh, Zach, that's a good question. I think through the course of my 15 years, there were a number of players that tested the system, I would say, more than anything else. Try to create a culture where it was really about collaboration and innovation. We tried to foster a lot of open dialogue and make sure everyone understood. My job to me was to give them structure, give them direction, and then to be able to hold people accountable when I had to do that. So I guess it got down to the point of where you have a lot of different personalities, and Christian probably shared that with you when you get to the National Football League. There's a lot of egos, and the biggest thing I've always asked them to do, check your ego at the door, number one, because it's a collaborative effort that we're going to have here. And I also wanted to let people feel like they could be themselves. And innovation was with my coaching staff, innovation with players. I wanted them to take ownership over what we were doing in that building. And to do that is you had to do that. And I said, so I try to foster that. And you get down through the years and it gets to a point of people keep testing you. I had a little bit of a thing I said, it was tolerance and production. When production's up here, you can tolerate some things because listen, not everyone's going to be treated the same, but everyone was going to be treated fairly. And obviously the great players, the ones that you expect more from, as long as they're producing, you have to give them a little bit of that leeway because I actually wanted them to be themselves. And I think part of leadership is allowing that person to also take ownership over that locker room and over that group of people. So recognize who those kind of alpha guys are in your team was the thing I always tried to do. It's who's the guys people gravitated to. But when the tolerance outweighed the production, we would have a talk. And we talked about maybe falling back in line. If that tolerance and production didn't start to get equal and it started to get further away because they bucked it, then I was probably on the phone saying, this may not be the best place for you, and we're getting ready to move on. So I never thought you want to sacrifice a culture and a ownership that 99% of the people were buying into for the sake of one. And so that's basically what it was. As long as the guy's playing and giving me that production, I may put up with a lot of the other things that go with that, as long as it doesn't really screw up with the core values that we live by. You got to show up and you got to be on time. I know there's going to be elements like you're going to be on the field, but you just crossed the white line, but everyone else was stretching. But okay, you had a big game and you were the last one out of the training room. So there's always things. And again, you got to moderate what you really pick and choose your battles. And that's how I did it.
Good morning, Coach.
Hi.
I'm Samantha, and I'm from Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And I was wondering, when you first started coaching, what were the biggest challenges you faced when trying to get your players to trust you?
Yeah, Samantha, that's a great question because I think that is the biggest thing that you want to do is you're trying to build trust, right? I think that, and I came in there, I was 34 years old. So I was a pretty young coach at the time. And matter of fact, there was about 3 or 4 guys that were actually on the team that were older than me. So I kind of used it. I thought it was a benefit for me, the fact that I had played in the National Football League. I understood what the demands were I understood how they were getting pulled in a lot of different directions. It's a lot. I think it's the group that they surround yourself with. I think because you guys are going through that, you'll find a lot of times it's the people you surround yourself with that kind of influence some of the decisions and choices that you make. I think for me, it was just being real with them and being upfront with them, holding people accountable, and at the same time, listening to them and being a good listener. I think when you think about leadership, it requires a courage and a vision. It requires humility and a willingness to listen, to learn, and to adapt. You sit there and you're not going to try to change everybody because everybody came from all different socioeconomic upbringings. There are different religions, different ethnic groups. But I'm all asking them to come in to buy into a common theme of us trying to be united in what we're doing and try to inspire those around you toward a common goal. And so that, to me, the trust really takes time to develop. They had to see how you handled adversity. When things are going well, it's easy to trust the system. It's when things, like I said, challenges are out there and adversity doesn't build character, it really reveals it. And that's why I really think that's a big part of it. So it takes adversity at times to really find out who you are and what you're made out of and how you're aligned and what you're saying. Are you still true to that? So that was for me as a young player is I wanted to listen to them. I wanted to be able to adapt and do some things that they felt comfortable with. It wasn't always going to be my way or the highway. So being a player, I understood that if I can come in and that means when they can buy into it, they know that I have their ear, that when I ask them to do some things that are uncomfortable maybe at times or have those uncomfortable conversations, it wasn't me attacking them. It wasn't me asking them to do anything more than I would be asking myself to do. So one of the things I used to always say is get comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm going to make you uncomfortable because I think that's the only way I can get you the very best out of you. I'm going to push you to places where you probably have not been before. I'm going to ask you to be disciplined. I'm going to ask you to abide by some things, to make some sacrifices, to be committed to something, even though you're not sure exactly why we're doing this. So that uncomfortable conversation you have to have also requires you to listen to that person at times when he needs to have a voice to be listened to. So I think your sense in that one word you just used is a huge part of culture. That's called trust.
Thank you, Coach.
Good morning, Coach. I'm Nick from Massachusetts. My question to you is, as a young coach at 34, what do you see in the new coaches in the NFL now, and how does it relate to your experiences in the NFL?
Yeah, Nick, I think it's a good question. I think there's young guys coming in, and it's probably a little bit different, right? I think the biggest difference I have from when I was there and now today is social media, the platforms that everybody's on, the transparency that we live our society in right now. We see things, everything that's being done in the world, as opposed when I was there, there's only a few, there's this news here, a couple platforms there. Guys weren't always on their cell phones. It started to come into it near the end of my career. I asked them just to leave the cell phones if they can in their locker rooms, but they're going down there now in today's world. These guys are checking their cell phones at halftime and people are texting them at halftime. It's a different world from that standpoint, but I still think it's the same thing. I go back to the same thing when you're trying to build a culture, when you're trying to build something. It is about collaboration. It's about being able to listen. It's about having some humility about when you do things, and it's about being able to adapt and adjust to everything that's going on. So my advice to a lot of these coaches, and I try to talk to a lot of them, is just get a feel for the building that you're in. Understand what the logistics are in terms of you want to make sure that you got to have a relationship with the owner. You got to make sure the GM understands all the decisions you make. You don't want them to hear it for the first time through the media or hear it for the first time through chatter in the locker room. So I was very big on making sure that my owner knew exactly where I stood on certain things. The fact that I may have to pull this quarterback this week, I'm thinking about it, so just don't be surprised if it happens. I'm going to bench a certain person this week. It's in his best interest. He's getting lazy. He thinks he's way too comfortable right now, and I got to make him a little bit uncomfortable, make him get a little bit hungry, and make him prove himself again. So these were little things that you did, I think, and you're trying to keep your team edgy. And I still think that works today. I think players want accountability. They want direction. They want structure. They want to know that they're working hard to something, because you have the guys coming in are 21 years old and they're coming in there with a lot of money in their hand. They're coming from NIL and they're getting paid in college, and now they're taking a pay cut to come to the pros. But all of a sudden, then you have guys in there that are 33 near the end of their careers. They got 3 kids at home, and they know that their window of winning a championship is very small. So those are the dynamics that exist in those rooms that you have to, as a coach, be cognizant of understanding that your messaging is something that's going to has to resonate with everybody that's in all those different areas where they are in their lives. So I think it's the same, to be quite honest with you. I think your messaging is everything. And you got to find different ways of saying the same things that you believe in and find different ways of reinforcing what you want that message to be. I made every game personal. I found a way. And if Christian just said one thing about us and we're getting ready to play the New England Patriots, I had that thing in the locker room. If he's talking about he's a much better tight end than the ones that we had. So I was just like, I guess that just starts at the top with that whole New England team. So I made everything personal, and I found a way to do that because I always felt that brought out the very best of our football team. I love throwing Christian in there anyway. So
I love hearing my
Thank you, Coach.
Good morning, Coach. My name is Cole from Connecticut, and I want to know about the cost of greatness. You're a clear and defined winner, and I want to know what techniques or skills you use to get a team of people to pay the price of greatness.
Cole, that's a good question. I think, let me just say this. I think it's not just a goal of people. I think it's really, think about where you guys are and getting ready to go out there. Ultimately, your lives will be shaped by the choices you make. You'll make right choices. You'll make wrong choices. But you don't know whether they're right and wrong when you make them. So what do you got to do? You got to make the best choice at the time. So what does the best choice consist of? And I would say this to you as you guys leave this and where you are and you go out into the real world, and you have to make all these decisions. Like I said, ultimately, your choices will dictate the path you go down. So the choices you make is what are my options? Really? What are my options? You have to make a choice. So it may stop right there. You may not have any other option. But if you have options, what are my options? Number two, what's a consequence of that choice? And sometimes you got to make sure you remove the emotion. And you also have to make sure that short-term gratification could equal long-term disappointment. So don't make that choice just based on what's good for now. Think about the long-term effects. And the last thing I'll say is save the emails, the texts. Think about what you send, because when you push send, that's a choice you make. And sometimes you push send and you're sending something, there's an emotional element to that. Back up, sit on it for a while, maybe even a day. But just think about the consequences of that choice. And then the last thing is past experiences. If you've been there before, you know someone else who's been there before, what did they learn? What did you learn the first time? I'm not saying you don't try it again. And only when you make those choices, be guided by the right choices, be educated by the wrong choices. And if you do that, it's called personal growth. And I would say this to you as well. Always have a backup plan. Have a backup plan with whatever you're doing. Go chase something. I think it's great to have a passion for something. But just have a backup plan in life. Every coach has a backup plan till the quarterback goes down, the tight end goes down. A backup plan, what happens all of a sudden, my left tackle can't block that right outside of edge rusher. What's my backup plan? So I made sure that we always had a backup plan, and I say have a backup plan for life. And I also say this, don't be afraid to take risk. Don't live a life too safe. I think it's easy. We can all go out there and live a safe life and be very cushy and comfy. But you want to do something special, you want to make a difference, you may have to take some risk. I'd rather risk and fail than never to have risked at all. So don't be afraid of getting knocked down. You'll be defined by how many times more you get back up than how many times you get knocked down. So go out there and go for it, man. Be a difference maker. And I say that to all you in there. You all have special talents. You all are in this class with Christian because it's something you believe in. We need leadership right now in our country. No matter whether it's in sports, no matter what we do, we need leaders, people that can show people how to do it, have some humility, to unite people, to give them a sense of direction, to inspire them around them, to be that guy that can make someone else feel pretty good about who they are. Doesn't mean you don't have uncomfortable conversations, but someday they will recognize that you just made them a better person by having that uncomfortable conversation. That's my advice to you guys that are in this class today.
Gonna go? Thank you, Coach.
Hello, my name is Lorenzo. I'm from Ecuador. More than anyone, what is to be a person who never quits, work hard on the other guy, and never be intimidated by anyone or anything. When you think back on your toughest moments as a coach, which of those moments meant the most to you? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lorenzo. You guys definitely did some research there. Okay, that was pretty good. Yeah, I don't know if there was really any tough times that I had. I think there was always a challenge for me. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, and I was cut from the National Football League. I made it my second time around as a street free agent. I got into coaching right from playing because I knew I was a special teams player, and that doesn't have a long history. But just being a coach, I just did my job. And I like bringing people together. I think that's the biggest thing for me is to take a group of people like this class you guys have, whatever you guys decide to do, if you did something collectively, is just the satisfaction, the gratification, the joy you have of passionately chasing something. And even if you fail, a lot of times, like when we won the Super Bowl, it wasn't so much the Super Bowl itself, but that journey along the way, the lessons we learned. We were 7-2. We lost 3 straight games that year. And after those 3 straight games, we're 7-5, and no one gave us a chance. And so I've always said some of the things I tried to use was the greatest joy in life is to do something no one thinks you can do. And we got into the Super Bowl that year. It was we were a 6 seed. No 6 seed has ever even gone to a championship game, let alone even win one and go to the Super Bowl. So my whole point to the team at that point, I talked to them, like a little story I gave them was about Christopher Columbus and the fact that when he left to try to discover America, they told him, don't do it. The world is flat and it's nothing but a death trip. But Christopher Columbus sat there and was convinced that there's something was out there and surrounded himself with a bunch of people who believed in the same thing he did, despite what history had told him. He went on to discover America. So my point was very simply this: don't let history dictate your future, but let your future make history. And we did that year. And I continue to tell people that everyone's going to tell you what you can't do because it's never been done before. But let that also be the inspiration and the thing that pushes you the most to do something that no one else thinks you can do. And that's the greatest satisfaction in life. How many people, where you are right now, how many people said that you're not going to be about to anything? And all you had to do was hear that. And to me, when I heard that, thank you. When a team says, oh, they're not that good, thank you. So I tried to make things personal to the point where, you know what, they're not giving us a chance. I love it because collectively we all believe in each other. And when you have a collective, united group of people with a sense of purpose, there's nothing you can't accomplish. I'm getting fired up thinking about this season right now.
Hey, Coach, I'm Garrett. I'm from Dallas. My question to you is, from your time at NC State, the Eagles, and the Browns, what coaches influenced you the most, and how did you implement their styles into your coaching style?
That's good, Garrett. I think that's a great question. Matter of fact, you're from Dallas. I got to say the most instrumental coach I had was Marty Schottenheimer. His son, Bryant, is now coaching the Dallas Cowboys. And Marty, I played for Marty with the Browns. He was a defensive coordinator. He called me up, and I'd never coached before. I was with the Philadelphia Eagles. He got the job midway through the 1984 season. He says, hey, do you want to get into coaching? You said you did when you left here, and I got traded to the Eagles. I just got hurt. I was a special teams captain. And I said, yeah. He goes, what are you going to make next year? I go, I just signed a contract. I'm going to make $120,000. He goes, listen, you can come here, special teams coach. You're going to work twice as much, and I'm going to offer you twice as less, $60,000, and let me know by Friday. And he hung up the phone. I go, so much for negotiations. So I guess there's my choice. But it was an easy choice to make. I love coaching. I love getting into it. And he had a tremendous influence on me. I played for Dick Vermeil. He was a very good football coach. My high school coach, quite frankly, Bill Yost, we only had 22 people on our team in Pittsburgh, and he spent so much time with me. And then I had Lou Holstein in North Carolina State for a year, and he had a great influence on me. One of the guys that most was a guy named Frank Gantz. Frank Gantz was a special teams coach with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I played a couple years under Frank Gantz when I was there at 83 and 84 prior to going into coaching. And I was a special teams captain. And he just did a great job. He was a great storyteller. So he had a great way of making all these different war analogies to a football team and how it's esprit de corps. We all got each other's back. And sometimes you go into a war, you lose some people. And sometimes we've lost a couple people to injury. That's why we got 53 guys on this team. It takes everybody. So he had a way of just making these analogies that was cool. And I remember just being in there, just like we'd have people come into his meetings that weren't even part of the special teams because they wanted to hear the stories. So if you have a good story that's got a good message, that resonates in rooms like this. And so make sure you tell Christian he's got to have a good story tomorrow when he comes in that's got a great message to it. But it's got to be a really good story. You guys got to let me know if Christian come up with a really good story with an even better message.
Remember this. Remember what he said. Okay. And I will take all your emails. If you guys send emails, okay, I will forward them to Coach.
I love it.
Okay, I like this. Challenge accepted, coach.
I love it.
Thank you, Coach.
Good up. Go. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. It's Connor Dawson from Cumberland, Rhode Island. And I'm always interested to hear about, from coach's perspective, what is the toughest team you had to game plan against and also player? And also, just side question, which team was tougher to go against, the 95 Cowboys or the 04 Patriots?
Oh, God. Listen, I'm going to start with the last question first. The 04 Patriots, listen, the Patriots, the one thing I will say this, you're talking about coaches that did have influence, and I go back that coached me, but there was two other guys that I would say that I watched coach. I think you learn a lot watching other people. I learned a lot watching other people work. I learned a lot from Bill Parcells about how you use the media to send message into your team. Bill Parcells was a master of talking to the media, and yet he could message, and it was his way of messaging the team. Basically, hey, we won the game, but we really aren't that good. And if we continue to play like that, we won't win another game. So I hope that our football team doesn't get a false sense of security, or he turns around and will say, listen, I know we've lost a couple games, but we're very close to being there. If we can stay the course and just keep believing in what we're doing, trust the system, and trust each other, we'll be okay. So he was great at that. The other one was in Christian played for, I think Bill Belichick. He had great humility and respect for the game. I always will remember the fact that Bill had a way of always looking on to he never dwelled on the past game, no matter whether they played good or played bad. He respected them, and he always respected the opponent coming up. He never took anything for granted. And I got to know Bill down through the years. Funny, when Marty got fired in 1989 from the Cleveland Browns, I went down to the Senior Bowl and I interviewed with the Giants. And I got offered a job by Bill Parcells, and Bill Belichick was the defensive coordinator to be the secondary coach. But Marty went to Kansas City. He gave me my first chance. I said, I'm going to go with Marty, even though they offered me more money. But my alliance was to the person that gave me my first chance. And that's why I'm going to align myself with Marty, because he's the one, he believed in me before I even knew I could do it. Anyway, so Bill ends up hiring Al Grove. He's going to coach the secondary. I end up hiring Tony Dungy. I'm going to coach the linebackers. I fly up to New York for one day, and I talk to him about secondary play in the morning. He talks to me about linebacker play in the afternoon. And for 2 years, in 89 and 90, we would share information on common opponents. We're both coordinators. I was at the Chiefs. He was with the Giants. 91, he goes to Cleveland. In 92, I go to Pittsburgh. So we went from friends to adversaries very quickly. Didn't talk much after that. And so I've got to know him again. It's just a lot of respect for him. But I will say this about the 95 Dallas Cowboys. They was a very good team, a team that Jimmy Johnson had built. And we lost to them in that game. It was a pretty special team we had that year. Matter of fact, it's so funny because Christian, we actually were getting ready to draft that year, and we were trying to get a tight end. We were a running football team. So it was like Christian and Mark Bruner were there, and I'm like, well, Christian's probably a better athlete, and he'll give us more in the passing game, but Bruner will be able to set the edge. I thought he was a bigger, more powerful blocker. And so we took him, and then I said, but we already had, and then we took Cordell Stewart in the second round. We had 6 guys from Colorado on our team, and everyone kept saying, why you got all these Colorado guys? I go, they wear black and gold too, so it's an easy transition. And so we played them in that game. And ironically enough, Cordell ended up playing more receiver than he did that year in his first year. That was Neil Donald's last year. But you know what? It was a great experience. It was my first time in a Super Bowl. I was 38 years old, one of the youngest guys to go to a Super Bowl at the time. And thought, okay, we'll get back there. And really never got back there until 10 years later. But that 2004 New England team with Brady, he was a pretty special quarterback. I said, I beat Bill a lot when he was in Cleveland because he had Vinny Testaverde. And then I played him in New England. He had this guy called Brady. And we didn't have as much success when he was up there. So he's a pretty good quarterback.
Coach, one more and we'll let you go. And
okay.
I can tell about what happened in 1995, actually. So Bruno was a little bit thicker than I was, right? A little bit thicker.
Yeah, Christian, we had more guys from Colorado on our team. We had Charles Johnson. We had Dion Figures. We had Ariel Solomon. Who else do we have? We had Joel Steed. These are all the guys you were playing with.
Yeah. Fun times. All right, Last one.
Coach Cowher, thank you for being here with us today. My name is
Yes.
Bo Shugarts. I'm from Augusta, Georgia, but both my parents are from the west side of PA. I wanted to ask you how you feel about Heinz Stadium now being called Acrisure Stadium.
Heinz was really Three Rivers. So let's go back to its roots. It's the same spot. It's gone from Three Rivers to Heinz, which that was a hard sell for me. Okay, Heinz ketchup. We're in the red zone, so I put the ketchup bottle. Come on, let me please. And when I first got there, how about this? We're in 1992. I had to get someone to take care of the music. In 1992, we're driving, and it's right around Christmas time, and all of a sudden the music comes on. It's chestnuts roasting over an open fire. I'm going like, you got to be kidding me. So we went from there to Renegade. So I was actually able to we're going over from chestnuts roasting over an open fire, and like that is supposed to inspire us. I felt like you're trying to put us to sleep. So we made a lot of transition, and that was at Three Rivers Stadium to Acrisure to now Heinz Field to Acrisure. So I'm okay with the name. It's still a Three Rivers Stadium to me, and so they can call it whatever they want.
All right. How good was Coach, right? How good was We don't do this often, but we're going to go for you. Hold on. We're going to go 5 clap strong for Coach, right? Can you do it? Yeah. Can you give me 5 strong, all in unison? Ready, Coach? Nobody's ever got this before. You're the first man. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Nice.
I'll tell you what, Chris, you guys are pretty good, man. I'll tell you what, you've done a good job coaching these guys up, and they look pretty tight. And that was impressive. I like it. It was good. Hey, listen, guys, I wish you guys nothing but the best, honestly, as you guys move forward. And I know, like I said before, I hope, and listen, you got a great teacher in Christian. I love his second act right now, a great football career, but sharing his wisdom with you guys. I just want to wish you guys nothing but the best going out there. And just remember what I said. You'll be guided by your choices, and you're going to make some wrong ones. You're going to make some right ones, and be guided by the right ones. Be educated by the wrong ones. It's the people you surround yourself with has a lot to do with those choices. Have a backup plan in life, but don't be afraid to go for it. And just wish you nothing but the best, man. Get passionate about it. Chase it. And if it doesn't work out, there's always that backup plan. There's always going to be a fork in the road. Just keep it that way.